friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I want to crochet a daffodil. My plan is to use a pale yellow to crochet some petals, and then a darker yellow to crochet the middle cup shape. So if you're interested in figuring out how to crochet the daffodil flower, keep watching. First things first, you're going to need some yarn. I've got these mixed greens. Those will make up our leaves and stem. And then I've got a pale yellow and a brighter yellow for the cup and petals. You're also going to need a crochet hook. I'm going to be using a 3.5mm hook today. You'll also need some scissors, as well as a yarn needle to weave in your ends and to sew the flower together. One bonus ingredient for this project is wire. So I have these floral wires. I just took off the paper that was on the outside of them, and I'm going to use these for the stem and for the leaves. I'm gonna crochet around this to add structure to my stem and leaves so that I can actually put this in a little vase and have a daffodil after. So gather your supplies and let's jump in. Let's start first with the petals. I'm gonna be using the pale yellow yarn for this one, and we're gonna need to make 6 of them. We're gonna start with a nice long tail. This tail is gonna be used to sew the petals onto the flower in the end, so adding that long tail will help. Then we're gonna do a slip knot, insert the hook, and chain 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 11, and 12. From here, I'm gonna slip stitch in the second chain from the hook, 1 and 2. I'll insert my hook, yarn over, pull through, and pull through the second loop for a slip stitch. In the next 2 stitches, I'm going to do single crochets. Insert the hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. We'll do that 2 times, so that was 1, here's number 2. Then we're gonna do 2 half double crochets for the next 2 stitches. So yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. We'll do that 2 times. And now we're gonna move into double crochets. So yarn over, insert the hook into the chain, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of the loops, yarn over, pull through the remaining 2. So we've got slip stitch, single crochet, half double crochet, double crochet, and then a second double crochet. And see how that's increasing the height of the row? Now we're gonna go back and reduce the size again. So the next 2 stitches here are going to be half double crochets, and then the next 2 stitches are going to be single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2. Now, in the last stitch of the row, we're gonna put 3 single crochets into the last stitch. So we did 2 single crochets, right? One in each stitch. But in that last stitch, we're gonna add 2 more single crochets. The reason we're doing this is to get around the work. This adding extra stitches is gonna kind of force us to turn a corner. So you can see now, we had our 1, 2, and 3 single crochets in the same spot, and now it looks as though we're working along the underside of the chain. So let's work this side now. So along the underside of the work, we're going to repeat the same thing that we did on that first side. So that 3 single crochets counts as our last single crochet from the previous row, a middle single crochet, and now the first single crochet of this new row. So there's our first one. We're gonna put a second single crochet into the next stitch. Then into the next 2 stitches, we'll put a half double crochet. There's 1, and there's 2. Then in the next 2 stitches, we're gonna do double crochets. So there's 1 double crochet, and in the next stitch, there's another double crochet. Then in the next 2 stitches, we'll put half double crochets. So there's 1, and there's 2. And then in the next 2 stitches, we'll put single crochets again. There's 1 single crochet, and there's 2 single crochets. And that brings us back to that slip stitch. So in this last stitch, we're going to add a slip stitch to bring us back to the top of the leaf, or petal rather. So that's it for our first round. Now we're going to be creating a point on the top here, and we're gonna go around another time. So now we've got a symmetrical shape here, but we need to slip stitch this together to create a round. So I'm just gonna grab that first slip stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch it together so that it ends in sort of a point. Now I'm gonna chain 2, 1 and 2. Then in the second chain from the hook, 1 and 2, I'm gonna insert my hook, and I'm gonna slip stitch that down. And that's gonna create the pointed top for our petal. From here, that was our first stitch. In our next stitch, we are going to do a slip stitch. In the next 2 stitches, we're going to do a single crochet. There's 1, and there's 2. In the next 2 stitches, I'm gonna do half double crochets. There's 1, and there's 2. Now in the next 4 stitches, I'm going to do double crochets. So this is a change from the first round. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now we're going to do half double crochets. So for our half double crochets, we're gonna do half doubles in the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. So I'll do, there's the first one, and there's the second one. Now in this middle stitch, which is the middle single crochet, we just did a single crochet. In one of the single crochets, we did a half double, but now we're at the middle stitch of our 3 stitches. See, there's the 1, here's the 2, and the middle is right here. In that middle stitch, again, we're gonna do 3 single crochets, just to work our way around the bottom of the petal to keep it round. We don't really want this side to be pointy. And now we'll repeat in reverse what we did for that first side, which means we'll do 2 half double crochets. There's 1, there's 2. Then we'll do 4 double crochets. There's 1, there's 2, 3, and 4. Then 2 more half double crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and then 2 single crochets, 1 and 2. Now in the next 2 stitches, we're going to slip stitch. So the final stitch of the row, we'll just pull the yarn through there for a slip stitch. And then this slip stitch that was the previous top of our work, we're going to slip stitch through that as well. And that's going to finish off our petal. So at this point, you can cut your yarn and weave in this end. And the one little tip I have for when you're weaving your end in for this project is weave first up to the tip of the petal. So let me show you what I mean. Thread up your yarn needle and then take that end and insert it into the top of the leaf first, just so that you can kind of bridge that gap to create a nice even point like that. And then as normal, weave in the end, but we'll leave that other end not woven in. So we're weaving in the end that is coming out of the top of the petal, but we're not weaving in the end that's kind of coming out of that rounded side. So this is the shape for the first piece of our daffodil. It is about 3 inches long at this point, and we need 6 of these. So through the movie magic, I have created the other 5, so you can see what the center of our little daffodil is gonna look like. So now that we've got our outside of the flower done, we need to create that cup for the middle. This is the shape I'm going for. My plan is to work in the round, only increasing 1 time, creating a little tube, and then having it ruffle around the outside. But look how cute these petals are. All right, let's jump into the cup now. Now I'm gonna be working with the darker yellow. I'm gonna start with a little bit of a long tail again. I'm gonna make a slip stitch, and then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. From here, in the 3rd chain from the hook, this one over here, 1, 2, 3, I'm gonna slip stitch that round together, creating a little donut for the center of our flower. From here, I'm gonna chain 1. Now in the center of that little donut, I'm going to put 8 single crochets. This chain 1 counts as 1 single crochet. So there's gonna be a total of 9. So I'll insert my hook into the center of that donut, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through both loops. And I'm gonna do that 8 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. So now with our 8 single crochets and then the chain 1, we have a total of 9 stitches in the round. I'm going to slip stitch at the top of that chain 1 to join. And I think I'm going to do one round with some increases, but I'm not going to do all 9 stitches increased, I think. I think I'm just going to do an increase every 3 stitches. So I'm going to start with a chain of 1. Then in the first stitch, I'm going to put 2 single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2. In the next stitch, I'll put 1 single crochet. In the next stitch, 1 single crochet. And in the next stitch, 2 single crochets. There's 1 and there's 2. So it's groups of 3. The first stitch, second, third. And now I'm just going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch. That's the first. And then second and third. 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. And then the next stitch, 2 single crochets in that one space. 1 and 2, and then the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet in each. There's 1 and there's 2. So at the end of the round, we've done 3 increases. We did 2 in the first stitch, 2 in the 4th stitch, and 2 in the 7th stitch. And now we're going to slip stitch together at the top of that first single crochet to join the round. And I think that's all the increases we're going to need for this one, just because it's not a very big cup we need to make. So we're going to chain 1 here, and then for the next round, we're just going to single crochet around. We're actually just going to single crochet around for the next 4 rounds. So that's 3 more rows after this. I'm on round number 3. Round number 1, we did 9 single crochets. Round number 2 was where we did our increases. And now round number 3, 4, 5, and 6 are going to all just be single crochet in the round. So I'm going to zoom through the next 4 rounds, and I'll meet you at the end of round number 6 to show you what we're going to do next for this daffodil center cup. Here is how it looks at the end of round number 6. It's so cute. Look at it's the little bottom part. So when we put this together, eventually that'll be the center. But we do have to make it a little bit wider, and then we're gonna have to flare it and ruffle it out. So to do that, I wanna do 4 increases in this next round. So let me zoom you in for that. So I'm gonna join round number 6 with a slip stitch, and I'll start round number 7 with a chain of 1. Then in the first stitch, I'm going to do an increase. So I'm gonna do 2 single crochets in that 1 stitch. We're gonna work in this round in sets of 4 stitches. So that was our increase. Then we're gonna do 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. So that's our first set of 4 stitches. Now the next stitch will be an increase. So 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. And then the next 3 stitches will be 1 single crochet in each. And 3. And then the next stitch will be an increase, so 2 single crochets in the next stitch, 1 and 2, and then 3 single crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And now at the end of the round, I'm gonna join up to the chain 1 that we started the round in. And now we've created a little bit more of an increase. We're gonna start the next round with a chain of 1, and then this next round is just gonna be 1 single crochet in each stitch around. I'll meet you at the end of round number 8. All right, here I am at the end of the round. I'm gonna join my round with a slip stitch. And now you can see it's gotten just a little bit wider on this next round. So for this next round, which is round number 9, I'm going to be doing something to create some ruffles. I'm still gonna work in the single crochet though. So here's how I'm gonna do it. So I'm gonna single crochet in the first stitch. In the second stitch, I'm going to put 3 single crochets. 1, 2, oops. It's gonna be snug, so get ready for this round rather. So 1, 2, and 3. In the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet in each. There's 1, there's 2. In the next stitch, 3 single crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And then in the next 2 stitches, 1 single crochet in each. there's 1, and there's 2. So now you can kind of see what's happening. You see it's creating this little bit of a ruffle. It's gonna be more pronounced on the next round. So I'm gonna repeat that all the way around. 3 single crochets in 1 stitch, single crochet 1 time in each of the next 2 stitches, 3 single crochets in the next stitch until I get back to the beginning of the round. I'll see you there. All right, here's what it's looking like at the end of the round. You can see all the little points where it's getting a little fatter. This in the end is gonna be where it kind of ruffles out like that. It's so cute. Okay, so I'm going to join my round with a slip stitch, and I'm going to start round number 10 with a chain of 1. Now for this next round, it's going to be pretty jam-packed. I am going to do 2 single crochets in every single stitch around. By the end of this round, you're going to hate me because this is going to be such a snug round, putting 2 single crochets in each one. This is like a number 4 weight yarn with a 3.5mm hook. It's not the funnest part of the project, but I'm gonna do it, and I will meet you back here once I'm done this round of 2 single crochets in every single stitch around. See you then. Okay, I'm obsessed. Look how cute this is. It ruffles perfectly. There's extra stitches now, so it's kind of forced into a ruffle. I love it. I'm trying to decide if we need 1 more round. I think we might be done. I don't want to overdo it and make the middle too big. I think that's it. Okay, so that's it for the middle. We're gonna finish it with the round where there's 2 stitches in each round, and then where the chain 1 came out of, I'm gonna put 1 final single crochet coming out of that same spot so that even where the chain comes out, there's 2 stitches. And then I'm gonna join my round with a slip stitch just like that. And then I'm going to take the end here and pull it through the other side and weave in this end. And then I'll come back here and we can put together the flower part before getting into the stem. Actually, putting it together is gonna be the most fun part, so I should save that until we have all of the pieces and just do it all in one thing. So now we're going to work on leaves. These guys have long, slender leaves, and I think what I'm gonna do is basically the same thing we did for the petals, but with a longer chain to begin with. So I'll do like a chain of, this was 12, so maybe a chain of 24, and then I'll do slip stitches, single crochets, double, half double, double, half double, single slip to make that shape. So let's start with this dark mix and let's make a leaf. All right, for the leaf, I'm gonna start with a slip knot. From here, I'm going to chain 34. 1, 2, 3, and 34 for the length of the center of the leaf. From here, I'm going to slip stitch in the second chain from the hook. So 1, 2, I'm gonna slip stitch into that chain, yarn over and pull through both loops on the hook. I'm gonna slip stitch into the first 3 stitches. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And now we're gonna switch into single crochets, and we are gonna put 4 single crochets. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, and there's 4. And now the next 5 are going to be half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now the next 5 stitches will be double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now the next 4 stitches will be half double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now all the way to the end of the row is going to be single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. In that last stitch, the 12th one, we're going to put 3 single crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and there's 3. And now that turned us around so that we can work the underside of our first chain, and you can see the shape that we've created. So these are our single crochets, and then it comes up wider for the half doubles, taller for the doubles, half doubles, singles. And it's gonna make a nice long leaf. So let's work the underside. So we are going to single crochet along the underside here, one time in each of these undersides of the chains until we hit a half double crochet from the other side. So it's going to be 11 more stitches. So I'm just going to single crochet in the underside of the starting chain until I get to those half doubles. And after that last single crochet, we're going to switch into half double crochets for the next 4 stitches. There's 1, there's 2, 3, and 4. And then in the next 5 stitches, we're going to do double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then in the next 3 stitches, we'll do half double crochets. There's 1, there's 2, and there's number 3. And then we're going to switch back to single crochets for the next 4 stitches. There's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And look at that. It's starting to get that leaf shape that we're looking for. So in the last 3 stitches of this row, I'm going to slip stitch until I'm back at the edge or the tip of the leaf. And there's my last one, slip stitched. And now let's get into the second round on this leaf. I joined my round, and now I'm going to start this next round first by slip stitching into the top stitch of the leaf. So even though it's not technically the top stitch of the round, I'm just going to slip stitch over to there. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. Then in the third chain from the hook, 1, 2, 3, I'm going to slip stitch that chain and then slip stitch back to the actual leaf and continue slip stitching in the next 2 stitches until I get back to those single crochets. So I'll just pick up one of the loops and slip stitch into that 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to switch back to single crochets. By doing that, we created that a little bit more of a point at the edge of the leaf. All right, so now we are back at single crochets. In these single crochet stitches, we're going to single crochet. So that's 4 single crochets first. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then we're going to do 5 half double crochets. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to switch into double crochets for 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then we're going to switch back to half double crochets for another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we'll switch back to single crochets for another 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now you can see how that is getting that curved sort of leaf shape now. For the rest of the stitches of the row or round here, I'm going to slip stitch. So 1, 2, and 5. I'm trying to decide if we need a stem on these. I think we'll just leave them as is. So I slip stitch into the next 5, and then the next stitch is our middle. So I'm going to slip stitch into that one as well. That's our middle top stitch. And then in the next stitch, that's the first stitch of our row back this way. So we're going to do 5 stitches on that row. So there's 1, here's number 2, slip stitch number 3, slip stitch number 4, slip stitch number 5. And then we're going to single crochet in the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Then repeating the other side, we're going to half double crochet into the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to double crochet into the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to half double crochet into the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to single crochet into the next 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then we're just going to slip stitch until we join to this point here. So this slip stitch will go right through. It's actually before the point, but it's going to join the work properly. It'll go right through that. It's a snug chain one, but I'll slip stitch through there, and that is it for our leaf. So let's take a look at it. I'm going to just cut the yarn here, pull this through, and then we can check this out. So this is what the leaf looks like. It's got a wide area in the middle, and then it tapers down. I think that's gonna look so good. And I'm going to make, I think I'm gonna make 2 of these. So I'm gonna make either 1 more or 2 more, but I'm gonna weave in the end up here. I'm gonna leave this end not woven in. Okay, so make 2 of them, and then I'm gonna make the stem now. So for the stem, I do have this piece of wire that is a little bit thicker. It still has some like styrofoam from the arrangement it was in, but I'm just gonna crochet over it, so I'm not really concerned about that. I think I'm gonna go in with just the dark green for the stem because I feel like daffodil stems are pretty dark green. So I'm going to start with a chain of, I don't know, maybe 50. Let's see what 50 looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 49, and 50. All right, I don't think this is quite long enough. I want it to be as long as the wire. So I'm gonna do another 10 stitches because I would rather have too much than not enough. So 1, 9, and 10 for a total of 60 stitches. So after the 60 chains, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook, and I'm gonna single crochet all the way down this initial chain. 1 single crochet in each stitch. There's no wobbling around with different stitches here. Just 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way down, and I'll meet you down at the bottom to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, I made it down to the bottom of the chain, and I'm going to just turn the work so that I'm working the chain like along the bottom of the chain, pretty much like we did for the leaves and the petals. But I'm not going to put any extra stitches in this last stitch. I'm just going to turn around and start slip stitching up the underside of the initial chain. So if you pull your stitches apart, it'll be a little easier to see where to put your hook. But just 1 time in each stitch all the way up, I'm going to put a slip stitch in the underside of the chain where those single crochets are coming out of. And I'm just gonna zoom my way through this row of slip stitches. It might take a little bit because it might be a little snug, but that's good. We want the stem to be snug. So I'll zoom through these slip stitches and I will see you when I get to the end of the row. All right, I finished getting down the row with slip stitches, and now we're gonna go back up the row with slip stitches again, but on the other side. So let me zoom you in. I just did my slip stitch in the last stitch of the row, and now I'm going to put a slip stitch into the first stitch of the next row, and I'm just going to put it in the top of those single crochets around the other side. So we just did all these, and now we're gonna work down this way with our single, or not single crochets, with slip stitches. So 1 slip stitch in each single crochet all the way up. And that's gonna be it for our stem. So I'm just gonna zoom through this, and then I'll meet you back here to show you what we're gonna do to make this stem work. All right, I made it back down to the bottom of my stem with my slip stitches, and I'm gonna put my last one in the middle stitch, and then I'm gonna chain 1 and pull a long tail through. The reason I want a long tail is I'm going to be using the tail to kind of sew this onto my wire. If you're not using a wire, just fold this over on itself, and we're gonna be stitching the edges of this together. But I have a wire, so I'm gonna put the wire here, and then I'm gonna stitch over it back and forth in order to close up the stem. So I'm gonna take my yarn needle now, and I'm basically just going to pick up 1 stitch on one side, and then the next stitch on the other side. Sorry about the birds, they're chatty today. So my tail is coming out of this side. So the first stitch I'll do will be down through the first stitch on the other side, and then I'll pull that through, and then it'll be up through the next stitch on the first side, and then down through the next stitch on the front side, back side maybe is better, front side, and then I'll pick up the next stitch of the back side, then I'll pick up the next stitch of the front side, and it's nothing special or fancy. I'm just gonna do this repeat all the way down my rectangle of fabric, my very narrow rectangle, and that is just gonna close it around the wire so that this will be the stem. So I'm gonna zoom through these stitches because it's a lot of them and it's gonna take me a little while, and when I get to the end of the stem, I'll meet you back here to show you what we're gonna do next. All right, I'm just making it up to the end of stitching together the stem around my wire, and I want this stem to cover the edge of the wire, so I'm just going to continue stitching back and forth until I kind of pull that edge over the sort of sharper edge of this wire. This is actually the coolest. So there's a wire now inside this small rectangle, and it can bend because it's wire, so it's gonna be perfect for the stem and for the base because this is a thicker wire. Now I'm gonna start attaching the leaves. Oh, by the way, we're already into the assembly. So I'm gonna start attaching the leaves. Here is what the leaf looks like. I'm going to wrap it around the stem to about 1 inch, and then I'm going to stitch all of that down to get it to connect just that much. And then I'm gonna do the same thing with the other leaf, just wrapped around the other way so that I have 2 leaves on my little daffodil stem. Then it'll be time to put the flower together, and then it's almost done. So I'm going to start with the darker leaf. What I'm gonna do is the side that has the tail, I'm gonna connect that down at the bottom of the stem, just like that. And I am going to start using all 3 yarns here. Actually, I think I'll only use the 2 green ones to start stitching this part down. Let me just thread up my yarn needle. Now, with my tails, I'm going to insert my needle down, oops, don't wanna lose those, through the first stitch on the leaf on both sides, down through the first stitch, and then down through the second stitch, and then the second stitch on the other side, and then the third stitch, and the third stitch. And I'm just gonna do it until I feel like the leaf has some support. So maybe up till like here, I'll just keep stitching that together. And I'm actually stitching through the green stem as well. So I'm inserting down, picking up the bit of green stem, and then picking up the leaf. So it's actually gonna be secured to the stem. It's not gonna fall off. And I think that should do it. And I'll pull that nice and tight. And then I'm just going to weave in the end by stitching the exact same way down. And once I finish this stitching, I'll zoom out and show you what it's looking like. Look at how cool this is. So the daffodil will be on this stem, and we can have it bend like that. And now the leaf is attached. Now we're gonna do the same thing with a second leaf. This one I did in a little bit of a brighter color. And I think it looks very cute. And we'll attach it, I think, like this. And I think this one I will attach to the leaf up to that point, and then I'll attach this side to the stem, I think, because I want it to all show, I think. So I'm using a double strand of the dark green yarn. I'm not using any of these tails, so I will have to weave those in later. But using a new dark green strand, I'm just gonna insert through the first leaf and through the second leaf until I get down to the end, and I'm just gonna tie a little knot here just so our stitches have like a bit of structure. And then I'm gonna tuck that end underneath everything. And now I'm just ignoring all the ends here, and I'm just gonna stitch the stem to my leaf. And I think I'm just gonna do whip stitches. I'm not even gonna do blanket stitches. Just 1 stitch through the leaf and then 1 stitch through our new leaf. Then I'll do it again. I'm trying to find a way to hold it better. Maybe like that'll be better. And then through the next one. So I stitched up the side here, and then I pulled the yarn through the entire thing so that I could grip the second side of the leaf and stitch it down as well. So I'm just gonna have it go. I should have woven in all of these ends first. There we go. So now I've got it attached to the leaf on the outside, and I'm just gonna stitch down along both pieces here to sort of connect it a little bit more securely. All right, I've made it to the bottom where all of those ends are coming out, and I'm still just ignoring those ends. I'm gonna weave them in after I finish stitching everything together. So it's coming out here. I need to secure this in entire leaf, I think I'm going to secure it down and kind of have it turn into the stem. So to do that, I'm going to just keep connecting all the pieces until they're like snug up against each other. And that might take me a minute. I'm figuring it out as I go here. All right, I think those are secure enough now. I've got the 2 leaves. I think 2 is going to be enough for this. And now we've got to put together our flower. So I just have to weave in all these ends on the bottoms of the leaves, and then we will get back together to put together the flower part of our daffodil. Look how freaking cute this is. I'm obsessed with it. I love this. Okay, let's put together the flower portion. So I've got the center part, and then I've got 6 petals. The 6 petals need to be connected together in a way that doesn't crowd them. So they all have tails like that, and then we'll stitch this on top. So how am I going to do that? I think I'm just going to pick one of the tails, and I'm going to ignore all the rest and just use one, and then if I run out of yarn somewhere, I'll switch to another. But I'm going to use my yarn needle again. I'm going to connect to one of my petals, and then I'm going to use that tail to insert into 1 stitch, 2 stitches at the end of the petal, just like that. So I've got stitch, bottom stitch, stitch. I'm crisscrossing it around that in order to connect it to my first one. So there's that. I've got my second petal, do the same thing. So we're gonna do 1 here and 1 there. Oops, 1 here and 1 there. Connect that on, get the next one. And there's my next one, and the next petal, and finally the 6th one here and through here. And now I'm gonna go back to the first one, the one the tail is actually coming out of. First I'm gonna try and organize these petals a little bit. Get all of these tails on one side, and there we go. I'm gonna go through the first petal, the one that I'm using the end of. I'm gonna go through it the same way I went through all the other ones, just so we have a complete circle here, and I put all the other ends on the back here. Look at how cute this is. Okay, this worked so well. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull that tight, and I'm gonna just stitch down and try and do the same thing a second time. So I'm not gonna go as carefully with it because now I'm just trying to hold this together. It doesn't need to be following that circle anymore, but I'm just gonna stitch through those petals, ignore all of these tails. I'm gonna try to, just to connect it even tighter. Look at how it even looks good from the back of it. That's amazing. I guess we're gonna need to do something to cover the back with like greenery. Then I'll go through these guys. And these guys. This is amazing. All right, so here's the back with all of our tails. I am going to get all my tails and I'm gonna tie a knot. That's my plan for these, because look how many there are. I'm not weaving all of those in, are you crazy? So I'm going to loop them into one big knot, and I'm going to just pull that as tight as I can to close up that back there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to just tie another knot over top of the first one. This is not for security. This is for bulk, because I'm going to use this shape as the base where I'll add some green in order to make up the back of the daffodil. You know, daffodils, they're kind of like sitting on the stem. So I'm going to use this big chunk of tails to just tie knots over top of to have as almost a stuffing, but also kind of a base to stitch onto. I think that's good. Then I'll trim it. And now we can stitch on the little cup. I just flattened the petals out to the way that they're supposed to look, and look how cute this is. Are you kidding me? With the stem, stop. So I'm gonna thread my yarn needle up with the dark yellow, and then let's get to stitching. So I'm basically just connecting this center to this center. So I'm just gonna take my yarn needle and pick up a stitch and pull it through in order to sort of connect that down. Then I'm gonna put my thumb into it in order to hold it in place. And I'm just gonna hold it in the same spot, and I'm gonna go around and pick up a piece from a petal and then a stitch from the little cup. And I'll just pull that through, a little bit snug there, and then I'll move on to the next stitch. I'm just doing whip stitches basically. So I'll pick up a stitch from the petal, and then I'll pick up a stitch from the little cup, pull it through, and I'm just gonna repeat that all the way around, picking up a stitch from the cup and a stitch from the petal, until the entire base of this little cup is secured to the main body of the flower. I don't know why this yarn needle is just fighting me. So I'm just gonna do a few more stitches around with these petals and the cup, and when I finish, I'll come back here to show you what it's looking like and what we're gonna do next. All right. I think that is it. So I'm going to insert my needle down through the cup and then through the entire back of the flower. And then with that tail, I'm just going to do a few stitches through that big ball of yarn. Oh my goodness. I don't know what is wrong with either the needle or the yarn. And then I'll trim my yarn. And now it's time for us to put the green sort of backing on the flower before we can attach it to the stem. So let's do that next. I'm gonna be using the dark green for this. Okay, I have a long double strand of the green yarn. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pick up a stitch, or not a stitch even. I'm gonna pick up a bit of yarn with that and tie a knot at the other end. We'll cover it up, but just so that there's something kind of tying this down. And now I'm going to pick up the base of each of the petals with my long double strand. And then I'm going to come over that entire rounded shape and stitch into what will be the base of that shape. It'll make sense as I keep going. And then I'll come back down to the petals, pick up another stitch from the petal, and then come back down through that ball of ends, then onto the next petal, and then through that ball at the end, then the next petal. I'm just gonna do that all the way around until I have kind of a base of stripes around the bottom of the flower. So I'm gonna zoom through that because it's gonna take me a little while, and I'll meet you back here once I have that sort of round of stripy green finished up. I don't even want to admit how long that just took to cover. I just did a million little stitches over the back of the flower, which is now all stitched together as well, looking so cute. And now I can actually just take this end still on my yarn needle and I can stitch it down to the stem. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna insert this edge. There's this one pokey bit coming out. I'm gonna insert that in to this green. So into the center back of the flower, I'm going to insert the wire that is exposed at the top of the stem. So I am going to take the end that still has my needle attached to it, and I'm going to stitch through the stem, and then I'm gonna stitch through the green part of the flower, and then again through the stem, and then again up through that ball on the edge of the flower. And I'm just gonna repeat that all the way around until the stem is totally and completely connected to this green thing. So I'm just gonna zoom around doing a bunch of stitches from the green back of the flower to the stitches on the stem. I'll see you once I finish those. Guys, stop it. Look at this. Okay, hold on. Let me set it up the way it's supposed to be because the leaves and the petals are all messed up. This is the cutest thing I have made in a very long time. Look at how freaking cute this is. It looks just like a daffodil with the darker yellow center. Tell me this is not amazing. Ta-da! It's finished. The leaves are so cute. Oh my gosh, this is gonna look so stinking cute in a little vase. Oh my gosh, my sister's having a baby in March, and this is the March flower, and I wanted to make one for her. And look at how freaking adorable it is. The ruffles around the outside of the cup look perfect. Because we did rows going this way for the petals, we ended up with like the stripes that are actually in daffodil petals. The leaves are great. I love the shape. I think they could have all been one color, the same color as the stem, but I kind of like having a little bit of extra jazziness going on. But look at how adorable this is. How cute. Oh, gosh, I love this. I hope you guys like it too. Very cute springy project for a daffodil. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up. It really helps the channel, and yeah, it's a great way to show support. Speaking of support, here is the list of channel supporters. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel. If you want to join this lovely group of people and get access to our private Discord and other fun things too, check the links in the description box down below. And other than that, I think that's it. I hope you have a great start to spring. See you next time. Bye!